Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Becca and I'm so glad that you're joining me today. This is my houseplant YouTube channel where I talk about all the houseplant things. And if you're new here, you might not know that my dogs like to play in the background of my videos. It seems as though every time I start to film, they start to play. So if you're hearing any dog sounds like this, the growling, it's just my dogs. Here, go away, go. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about 5 things I wish I knew before I started collecting houseplants. So a little background information if you don't know me, I started collecting houseplants in 2018 and it really started from an existential crisis leaving college. I didn't know who I was, who I wanted to be, what my life would consist of now that I wasn't going to be a student. And I didn't really know where my life was gonna go after that. So I started to collect houseplants. Plants had always been a part of my life one way or another. My family grew up having gardens and really focusing on outdoor plants. We really made very lush spaces for ourselves. Despite growing up in the desert, we always had a lot of greenery around us. And I sort of found a lot of solace in those places in my family's homes where there was lots of greenery and nature, and I wanted to recreate that for myself inside. So now you can see that I definitely did that. I made an indoor jungle and it really helped me through a lot of super hard times since then and has given me lots of hope and, you know, in some situations like a reason to wake up in the morning because I knew that my plants needed to be taken care of, or I don't know, I was excited for an unfurling leaf or whatever. I mean, plants have really helped me in a lot of ways and I've talked about that, you know, a few times on my channel. So yeah, I really have a deep connection with them and I see them as so much more than a plant. And sometimes that causes me issues, which I will be talking about in this video. So let's get into those 5 things I wish that I knew before I started collecting houseplants. The first thing is not every plant is for every person. Now this is something that I have absolutely learned the hard way, and anybody who has been collecting houseplants for any amount of time can attest to this, that not every plant is going to like us. Not every plant is going to be good for our environment. And the faster that we learn that, the better things will be for us. Because I can't tell you how many times I kept buying the same plant over and over again only to kill it another time or for it to have this life that I didn't like. Like for example, the polka dot plant. I don't know why, but I just kept buying them because I thought that it would be different this time. Classic. But it wasn't. It always had the same result. Like they got stretched out and I didn't like the way they looked. And so I stopped buying polka dot plants. And there's, you know, every person probably has that plant that they have tried so many times with and it's been a fail and you just had to decide no more of this. So I think the faster you can figure out which plants work best in your life, the better your collecting will be. You will have to worry so much less about struggling through taking care of these plants and always feeling frustrated and disappointed with yourself, because I mean, it can feel like it's your fault, but honestly, maybe it is on some level, but at the same time, we don't need to put ourselves in those positions constantly. So for that reason, I never bought Calathea, Gophertia, anything like that for a really, really long time into my plant journey. I actually waited probably like 2 years before I bought my #1 wish list plant, which was the Calathea orbifolia, because I knew that I wasn't going to be able to take care of it because the plant had a lot more needs than I was willing or able to give it. So plants have needs, obviously, and the better you are able to understand those needs and provide those needs, or just not get the plant if you can't provide for those needs, the better you will be off. And actually my friend Maria from Bloom and Grow Radio has a quiz on her website. I think it's called the Plant Parent Personality Quiz. And basically you just take this little quiz and it'll tell you what type of plant parent you are. And that'll kind of help you decide what kinds of plants you should be getting. So if you have a lot of time on your hands, you could probably get a little bit more high maintenance plants. But if you don't, you probably want to stick with like Monstera deliciosa and snake plants and Aglaonema and things like that, which are absolutely so beautiful. And that doesn't mean that you can't get, you know, harder to care for plants. It's just that you probably shouldn't get as many. So that is definitely something that I wish I knew from the beginning. And yeah, I've paid for it several times and now I don't buy plants that I know that I can't take care of if they have high needs, because I am not a person who wants to provide the care for a lot of high need plants. I can only handle a few. The next thing that I wish I knew at the beginning of my plant collecting is that I don't have to collect everything all at once. It is such a common occurrence for someone to start collecting houseplants and go from 0 to 100 in like a month. Like that is probably the most common thing that I have heard people say. Like, I have no idea what happened. I had 1 plant and then 2, then 20, then 30, then 100. And something very similar happened for me. I think that I started out and I had at least 15 within like a couple months of starting collecting. I wasn't really able to give them all the care that they needed, and I ended up killing a lot of plants in the process. Now, I don't think that killing plants is like a mortal sin, because literally everybody is going to kill a plant in your plant journey, and we're going to be a little irresponsible at the beginning because we're excited. But I just think that it's important, like especially with wish list plant acquisition, like I think it's very easy to get caught up in buying it the second that you see it, or just like, I don't know, just like buying too many plants at once because you are just really excited about it. It's definitely something that I've done, and I wish that I wasn't so hasty to collect everything, because at the beginning it didn't really give me an opportunity to care for each plant individually. And like I said earlier, I really have a connection with each and every one of my plants, and when I buy like a bunch at one time, it's a lot harder for me to get that like relationship with them so that we can like understand each other. And I'm way over personifying a plant, but I hope that this is like resonating with someone out there, because plants really are so special and they have ways of speaking to us and communicating with us. And if you have too many new plants at once, it's really hard to become in tune with them because you're trying to look at all of them at the same time. You know what I mean? This really ties in with a Skillshare course that I've been taking. So I wanted to take a moment to talk about Skillshare, which is the sponsor of this video. So thank you so much, Skillshare, for sponsoring this video. I love working with Skillshare. I love taking Skillshare classes. And if you're unfamiliar with Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of classes for creatives and curious people so that they can explore new skills and get lost in creativity. So in the past, I've talked a lot about how I don't enjoy this like cluttered plant look, which seems a little bit silly for me to say that while I'm standing in front of this place that is like very cluttered, but it's supposed to be cluttered because this is only a plant room. But I talked about in a previous video how I have this section on my countertop that is just like full of plants, and it stresses me out so much because there's just way too much going on. I've been trying to think of why that has bothered me so much that it's so cluttered, and I think it's because I just like, I don't know if it sounds weird, but like I identify more with like minimalism than like maximalism, which again sounds funny to say with my background, but anyway, you get the picture here. So the class that I took is called Everyday Minimalism, Finding Calm and Creativity and Living Simply by Erin Boyle. And this class was so relaxing to watch. Like, Erin just really breaks it down, and she talks a lot about why less is more, identifying stressful areas in your home, and deciding what to let in and what to let go of, pretty much. It just gave me a lot of perspective on my own personal style in my home, and just kind of confirms things to me that like I don't need to have all these things just because like the magazines have it, and you know, whatever, Pinterest, people on Pinterest have it, all of these things. It kind of helps me to like recenter into what I like, and that definitely ties back into plants because it's so easy to want to collect like 1,000 plants just because everybody has 1,000 plants, and really for some people that's just not going to be it, and I think it's important to recognize that. So anyway, before I get too carried away, if you are interested in taking this class or any classes on Skillshare, I really recommend it. Seriously, it's the best. The first 1,000 people to click the link down in the description box below will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium, and after the trial it's only about $10 a month. Speaking of buying plants and finding wishlist plants and all of these things, I want to talk about the next tip, which is trade as often as you can and get involved in your local plant community. So plant community is arguably the best part of owning plants because the plant community is a wealth of knowledge. You will learn so much from other people just based off of their experiences over long periods of time or even short periods of time. You can learn a lot from your plants, and I think that it's so valuable to share that learning and what you're experiencing with other people. And a really great way to do that is with the online plant community or with your in-person plant community. So there's lots of Facebook groups, but if you don't want to use Facebook, I actually did create a social site for people who want to get connected with their local plant community. It's called Indoor Jungle Directory, and I haven't talked about it in a long time because it just feels like something that's like has its own life now. So I wanted to reintroduce you guys to Indoor Jungle Directory. If you aren't familiar with it, you can follow it on Instagram. And if you don't want to make an account on the site, I mean, it basically is like a Reddit, but only for plants in your specific area. So there's different groups for different cities. So there's a group for, let's say, Columbia, Missouri, Chicago, Toronto, London, and everything. Any city that you want, you can create a group if there isn't one already. I think it's a really great alternative to Facebook groups if you're not interested in that. And also, if you don't want to make an account on the website, you can just utilize the hashtag tool that I created on Instagram, which would be a formula. So we're gonna put a little formula on the screen here, and it says your city indoor jungle. So for me, that would be Columbia indoor jungle. But since there's a lot of Columbias, I would probably put Como indoor jungle because that would make more sense for me and my community. Como is the nickname of Columbia, I'm learning. So when I lived in Tucson, it was Tucson indoor jungle. And anyway, there's an Instagram page, and you can follow the Instagram page and possibly get featured if you use your hashtag. So yeah, there's lots of ways to connect with people online in the online plant community that can translate to in person. And I just think that is so valuable and so important for us to be reaching out and having those interactions with people, especially after an entire year in isolation. I mean, more than a year now if you're in the United States. I don't know how it is in other countries necessarily, but we're pretty much still in isolation. And oh my gosh, you guys, I got my first dose of the vaccine. I am so excited. I can't tell you the relief that I felt like as I sat in my car after getting it. Yeah, I'll get my second dose in a couple weeks, and I'm so excited to have like a fun summer. Hopefully we can get to that point. But anyway, I'm in a new city and I don't know anybody here, and plants have been a really great way for me to meet people. And I just love it. I love that I have an immediate community wherever I move because plant people are everywhere. So you just have to find them. And with that being said, plant people are usually very kind and generous people who are willing to trade plants with you or even gift you some cuttings if you're new or whatever it may be. You know, it depends on the person and what the vibe is, but a lot of people are really, really happy to share their plants with you for trades or just as a gift. And I think that that is such a gift. I think it's so special that people are like that. And I've definitely had my fair share of people giving me plants, and I've given other people plants, and it's just like a cycle. So if you can find people in your local area to trade plants with, trade cuttings with, whatever it may be, go to a plant swap. That is a really great way to meet people. And I think getting embedded in your plant community is like, whether you do it online or in person, you know, you can do both. I think that that is so valuable. Okay, the next thing that I want to say, connected to community. This is kind of the negative part of community, but it is to listen to your intuition. And I think that, you know, everybody has intuition. We all have this thing inside ourselves that kind of lets us know if danger is coming and to kind of like leave, like fight or flight. I've been in situations in the past where like a trade was proposed to me or somebody wanted to send me something, or you know, whatever it may be. I bought a plant from somebody and somewhere along the line it kind of felt weird. And I can't exactly explain why or how I noticed this, but just something felt off. And I'll share this specific example. So at the beginning of my plant journey, I purchased a Banto Sensation Sansevieria, now Dracaena, from somebody online that I had met with. I had actually posted on my Instagram that I was looking for this plant, and this person messaged me and was like, hey, I have like a couple pieces. I'd be happy to send it to you if you just give me like 20 bucks or something. And I was like, sure, that sounds like a great deal to me, because I couldn't find it anywhere near me. So I don't know, it felt like a good deal. I still feel like it's an all right deal. So anyway, I did feel kind of weird about it, honestly. Like, and I don't know exactly what it was, but something just felt kind of strange. But I still went forward with it, and I got the plant and it was fine. So what ended up happening a couple months later, it came out that he was using these addresses from women that he would send plants and sell plants to if they disagreed about something online. And he was like a misogynist, so like obviously obviously women are gonna disagree with him. So he would send them threatening things in the mail and just like a bunch of stuff like that. And like, it wasn't just over the mail, it was also through DM. He was really threatening, and inappropriate and just like a bunch of stuff. Actually, somebody that I followed was talking about it on their stories, and I was like, oh my God, like I gave him my address and bought a plant from him. And I totally freaked out for like a couple weeks. I was really scared that something would happen. Of course, I didn't like get in any internet discourse with him because I found out pretty soon after the whole situation happened. But yeah, it was really shocking, and just like another situation where it was really silly for me to give out my address to a stranger. So I would suggest that if you are going to be doing online trading or anything like that, to get a PO box or send it to your place of work, just somewhere public that is not like directly trackable to you, because you never know really, because I didn't like, there was nothing written in black and white that would make me nervous, but still something felt weird. So if I had listened to my intuition, this wouldn't have happened. But then again, like, he shouldn't have been shitty, so I shouldn't blame myself, but you know what I mean. So it's just another precaution that we can take, is to just, if it feels weird, it probably is, then you should just not do it. Okay, the last thing that I want to talk about that's a little bit less heavy is the fact that plants have lives of their own. And this is something that I talk about quite a bit. I don't think that I've really said this recently, but plants have their own life cycle, they have their own agenda, they have their own thing, and we have taken them out of their environment and grown them indoors. So things are bound to go wrong. Things are bound to be weird, and that is just life. Okay, so these things would happen also out in nature, but nobody is hovering over the plant watching its every move to like make sure that this does or doesn't happen, you know what I mean? So I just want to reiterate that some things really just are out of our control, and it's okay that you can't fix every plant with a pest, or it's okay that your plant gets brown leaves or yellow dots on it or whatever it may be. You know, you can work to figure out what's happening, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't spend hours and hours and days and weeks stressing about it and worrying about it, because at the end of the day, it's a plant. Unless you've spent hundreds of dollars on it, then you should probably really work to fix it. But really, unless it's in one of those situations, we shouldn't be frivolous with like buying and killing plants, but at the same time, it's bound to happen, and it's better if you just let it go. Just let it go. Because that will save you a lot of stress, and sometimes the plant's just gonna die no matter what you do, and that's the end of it. So I wanted to really instill that as a last point, because yeah, it's very easy to beat yourself up when a plant isn't doing very well and take it as you are a bad plant parent, or like you don't know what you're doing, you are not qualified for this, and that's really not true. Maybe in certain situations you bought that hard plant a little bit too soon, but now you know that, and you can take that as a lesson for yourself rather than using it as an opportunity to beat yourself up and not have houseplants anymore. Because I've definitely had moments where I like killed something like a pothos, and I'm like, what am I even doing collecting plants? Like, I have no business collecting plants if that is what I did. So just give yourself some grace and know that plants have lives of their own, and they have an agenda, and they're gonna do what they want. And there's also lots of other little things like pests and bacteria that also have an agenda against your plants. And sometimes it just is a combination of things that isn't gonna work out for you in your favor, and you need to know when to let go and just let it happen. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for checking out this video. I hope that it was helpful, maybe a little pep talk for you as you start your plant journey, or maybe a reminder if you are pretty developed in your plant journey. I know that a lot of my fungus gnat is in my face. I know that a lot of my consistent audience are not, you know, brand new beginner houseplanters, but I know there's a lot of you who are and could possibly really benefit from this, so I wanted to make this video. So anyway, if you are interested in checking out Skillshare, please click the link down in the description box below, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!